The great hall buzzed with voices from 47 different worlds, each species speaking in their own way while the translation devices worked to make sense of it all. Ambassador Kang Minho stood at the center podium, his black diplomatic uniform, crisp and formal, representing every human being alive. His hands were steady, but his heart pounded as he looked up at the massive council chamber that stretched high above him, like a cathedral made of crystal and metal. 3 years had passed since Earth first made contact with the Galactic Council. 3 years of careful diplomacy, of proving humanity could work with other species, of showing they were ready to join the greatest civilization the galaxy had ever known. Today would decide if all that work meant anything at all. Prime Counselor Vexathon raised his 6 crystalline arms for silence. The Zalari leader looked like living glass, his body catching and reflecting the chamber's lights in patterns that hurt human eyes to follow. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone who had ruled star systems for longer than human civilization had existed. "We gather today to judge the species known as humanity," Vexathon announced, his words echoing through the vast space. "For 3 standard years they have held provisional status, seeking full membership in our council. The time has come to decide their fate." Minho felt the weight of Earth's hopes pressing down on his shoulders. Back home, billions of people watched through quantum feeds, waiting to learn if their species would be welcomed among the stars or cast back into isolation. He had prepared for this moment his entire diplomatic career. But now that it was here, the words felt heavy and clumsy in his mouth. Counselor Thyril of the Makoan Empire slithered forward on her many legs, her breathing apparatus hissing with each word. "The humans show concerning patterns of behavior. Their world remains divided into competing nations. They maintain standing armies. They produce weapons of mass destruction. These are not the actions of a civilized species." "Honored Counselor," Minho replied, keeping his voice respectful but firm, "humanity has made great progress during our provisional period. Our global conflicts have decreased by 60%. We have established unified protocols for space exploration and first contact procedures. We have demonstrated our commitment to peaceful cooperation." A ripple of dismissive sounds echoed through the chamber. Counselor Zephek of the Tritonian Collective buzzed through his translator. "Yet you still wage war among yourselves. Your news feeds show violence daily. How can we trust a species that cannot even achieve planetary unity?" Minho had expected this criticism. It was the same argument they had been fighting for 3 years. With respect, counselors, many species in this very chamber fought wars during their early space age. The records show that the Makoan Empire itself had 3 competing governments when they first achieved interstellar flight. The path to unity is not always smooth or quick. "The difference," Thyril hissed, "is that we eventually learn to cooperate. Your species seems incapable of such growth. You celebrate your divisions. You take pride in your conflicts." "We take pride in our diversity," Minho corrected. "Our different cultures and viewpoints make us stronger, not weaker. We have proven this through our scientific achievements, our artistic contributions, and our diplomatic success during these provisional years." The debate continued for hours. Each human achievement was met with alien skepticism. Every argument for inclusion was countered with examples of human shortcomings. Minho found himself defending not just his species' actions, but their very nature. The aliens seemed unable to understand that humans could be both competitive and cooperative, both independent and unified when it mattered most. As the day wore on, Minho began to see the truth written in the aliens' expressions and body language. This was not a fair hearing. The decision had been made before he ever entered the chamber. The council had already decided that humanity was too dangerous, too unpredictable, too different to be allowed into their exclusive club. When the formal vote was called, the result was exactly what Minho had feared. One by one, each species cast their judgment. 47 voices spoke in unison. Rejected. But Prime Counselor Vexathon was not finished. He rose again, his crystalline form catching the light like a prism. Furthermore, the Council finds that the human species poses a potential threat to galactic stability. Therefore, all communication channels with the Sol system are hereby severed. All trade agreements are voided. All diplomatic contact is terminated. These restrictions will remain in place until humanity demonstrates it has evolved beyond its primitive nature. The words hit Minho like a physical blow. Complete isolation. Not just rejection, but total abandonment. They were cutting Earth off from the galaxy entirely, leaving humanity alone in the dark between the stars. "You are making a terrible mistake," Minho said, his diplomat's training finally cracking under the weight of what was happening. "You judge us by standards you apply to no one else. You fear our potential because it threatens your comfortable certainties. History will remember this decision and it will not judge you kindly." Bexathon's laugh sounded like breaking glass. "History is written by civilized species, human. Your kind may never have the chance to write anything at all." The quantum communicators went silent. The jump gate connections to soul space sealed themselves with a finality that rang through the chamber like a funeral bell. In that moment, humanity's window to the galaxy slammed shut, leaving them trapped in their own small corner of space with nothing but their own resources and their own stubborn determination. Back on Earth, President Park Subin received the news, in the crisis center buried deep beneath Seoul. The room was filled with the most important people in human government: Defense Minister Lee Ji-won, Science Advisor Dr. Yoon Tae-hyung, Intelligence Director Nam Hye-jin, and a dozen others who had spent 3 years preparing for this moment. They had hoped for acceptance, but they had also prepared for the worst. "Complete isolation," Subin announced to the room, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what had just happened. "No trade, no communication, no contact of any kind. They expect us to beg for readmission once we realize how helpless we are without them." "Ma'am," Dr. Yoon spoke up from his seat at the main table. "Our scientists have been reverse engineering Council technology since first contact. We have detailed analyses of their quantum drives, their energy systems, their communication protocols. We are not as helpless as they believe." Defense Minister Lee nodded grimly. "Our military has been preparing contingency plans since the provisional period began. We saw this possibility coming. We have options." Intelligence Director Nam opened her tablet and began reading. "We have complete profiles on all 47 Council species, their weaknesses, their resources, their military capabilities. If they think cutting us off will make us desperate enough to submit, they are about to learn how wrong they are." President Subin stood and walked to the great window that looked out over Seoul's skyline. The city stretched endlessly in all directions, millions of lights representing millions of human lives, all now cut off from the wider galaxy by alien arrogance and fear. "They made one critical error," she said finally. "They assumed we needed them more than they needed us. They assumed isolation would weaken us." She turned back to face her advisors, and her smile was sharp as a blade. "They are about to discover what happens when you force humanity to rely on itself completely. They wanted us to evolve. We will, just not in the way they expect." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity was alone among the stars, but they were not helpless. They had their own resources, their own ingenuity, and now they had something else. A unified purpose born from rejection and forged in the fire of absolute necessity. Outside, the stars watched silently as Earth began its transformation from an isolated world into something the galaxy had never seen before. The Council had made their choice. Now humanity would make theirs. 20 years had passed since the Great Silence began, and the galaxy had grown strangely quiet about the fate of humanity. In the early years after the severing, some Council members had expected desperate messages from Earth, pleading for readmission, offering to change whatever the aliens demanded. Others had predicted that humanity would destroy itself in nuclear fire, as so many young species did when faced with isolation and despair. But there had been nothing. No signals, no communications, no signs of life from the Sol system at all. In the Council chambers, the topic of humanity came up less and less frequently. When it did, most species assumed the worst. Prime Counselor Vexathon occasionally wondered if they had been too harsh, but he quickly dismissed such thoughts. If the humans had survived, surely they would have tried to contact the council by now. The silence could only mean one thing. The human experiment had ended. They were wrong. Deep in the Sol system, Director Kim Dong-yoon stood before a holographic display that would have amazed any council scientist. The three-dimensional map showed every planet, moon, and asteroid in human space, each one marked with symbols indicating population, industry, and defense capabilities. What had once been a single world struggling to reach its own moon was now a thriving interplanetary civilization. Mars Colony 7 is reporting full agricultural independence, announced his deputy Choi Min-ji, reading from her datapad. Population has reached 52 million. They are requesting permission to begin the terraforming expansion into the southern continent. Approved, Dong-yun replied without hesitation. What about the outer system projects? Jupiter Station continues to exceed all production targets. The Europa shipyards delivered their 15th Dreadnought-class vessel this month. The Titan research facilities have made another breakthrough in quantum mechanics. Min-ji paused, checking her notes. Director Song wants to speak with you about the latest test results from the Human Enhancement Program. Dong-hyun nodded. The enhancement program was perhaps their most important project, and certainly their most controversial. When the Council had severed contact with Earth, humanity had been forced to confront a harsh reality. They were alone in a galaxy full of species that were stronger, faster, and smarter than baseline humans. If they were going to survive and thrive without alien help, they needed to become something more than what they were. Dr. Song Yoon-ji waited for him in the secure laboratory complex buried beneath the Pacific Ocean floor. The facility was a marvel of human engineering, its walls lined with quantum computers that processed data at speeds that would have impressed even the Zalari. But it was the people working in the lab that truly showed how far humanity had come. Director? Song greeted him, and Dong-hyun immediately noticed the subtle changes in her appearance. Her movements were too fluid, too precise. Her eyes held a sharpness that seemed to see everything at once. Her skin had a faint luminescence that spoke of cellular modifications beyond anything the Council had ever attempted. Show me the latest results, Dong-hyun requested, though part of him was still uncomfortable with what they were doing to themselves. The enhancement program had started small, with simple genetic modifications to improve disease resistance and longevity. But necessity had pushed them further and further beyond the boundaries of baseline humanity. Song led him to an observation chamber, where a dozen volunteers were undergoing the latest enhancement procedures. Neural processing improvements of 400%, she explained, her voice carrying the same precision as her movements. Reaction times increased by 300%. Memory capacity expanded beyond any previous measurements. And that is just the mental enhancements. She gestured to another section of the lab where volunteers were demonstrating the physical improvements. Men and women moved with impossible grace, lifting weights that should have crushed normal humans, their enhanced muscles and reinforced bones handling stresses that would have killed unmodified people. Bone density increased by 400%, Song continued. Muscle efficiency improved sixfold. Radiation resistance at levels that would allow them to walk unprotected on the surface of Europa. Oxygen efficiency so improved that they can hold their breath for over an hour without discomfort. And the psychological effects? Dong-hyun asked, the question that had been haunting him since the program began. Minimal, Song replied. The enhanced individuals retain their human emotions, their creativity, their capacity for both cooperation and independence. They are still recognizably human, just more so. Better versions of what we were always meant to become. What Song did not mention, and what Dong-hyun was only beginning to understand, was that the enhancements went far deeper than simple physical and mental improvements. The enhanced humans were developing capabilities that seemed almost supernatural, intuitive understanding of complex quantum mechanics, the ability to process information in ways that normal humans could not even comprehend, and most remarkably, a form of shared consciousness that allowed them to coordinate perfectly without any need for verbal communication. In the asteroid belt, Admiral Oh Sung-min commanded humanity's secret fleet from his flagship, the Indomitable. The ship was unlike anything the Council had ever built, its hull a masterwork of human engineering that could bend light around itself, making it invisible to any known sensor technology. Its weapons could tear holes in space itself, and its shields converted incoming energy into raw power that could be redirected back at attackers. Fleet status report. O requested from his command chair, and his aide, Commander Ryu Nayung, responded with the efficiency that came from genetic optimization and cybernetic enhancement. 2,000 ships operational, Admiral. All crews fully enhanced. All systems running at peak efficiency. Our stealth fields remain undetected by Council sensors. O smiled, though the expression carried a predatory edge that would have terrified any alien observer. And our intelligence-gathering operations? Proceeding according to schedule. Captain Lim has successfully infiltrated the Outer Rim territories. Agent Mo is embedded deep in Zalari space. Agent Kim has established a network throughout Makoan territory. The Council still believes we are trapped in the Sol system, unaware that we have been watching them for 15 years. The truth was even more remarkable than Ryu's report suggested. Humanity had not only broken free of their isolation, they had turned it into the greatest advantage any species had ever possessed. While the Council grew complacent, secure in their belief that humans were contained or extinct, enhanced human agents had been spreading throughout Council space like invisible ghosts, mapping every military installation, every trade route, every weakness in the alien civilizations that had rejected them. On Titan, General Han Woo-jin reviewed the intelligence, reports that flooded in daily from across the galaxy. The enhanced human agents were so far beyond baseline human capabilities that they could infiltrate alien societies without detection, passing themselves off as members of dozens of different species through a combination of genetic modification, technological augmentation, and mental enhancements that allowed them to perfectly mimic alien thought patterns. The Zalari defense grid has a critical vulnerability in Sector 7, reported Agent Mo through encrypted quantum communication. Their patrol schedules are predictable. Their response times are measured in minutes, not seconds. When we are ready to move, their homeworld can be taken in less than an hour. Excellent, Woo-jin replied. Continue your observations. What about the Makoan territories? Agent Kim reports that their military has grown lazy and overconfident. Their weapons technology has not improved in decades. Their ships are large and impressive, but slow and poorly defended against the kind of weapons we have developed. Similar reports came in from across Council space. The aliens had spent 20 years believing themselves secure, never imagining that the species they had rejected was not only still alive, but had grown into something far more dangerous than they had ever feared. The Council's greatest mistake had been assuming that humanity needed alien guidance to evolve. Instead, isolation had forced humans to push the boundaries of what their species could become, unrestrained by alien limitations or alien fears. In TUA-9, the research stations hidden throughout the outer system, human scientists made breakthrough after breakthrough in fields the Council had declared too dangerous to explore. Quantum consciousness transfer, dimensional manipulation, the ability to exist in multiple realities simultaneously, technologies that would have seemed like magic to the aliens who had rejected humanity as too primitive to join their civilization. Dr. Bae Kyung-soo worked in a laboratory that existed in 7 dimensions at once, his enhanced mind easily processing the complex mathematics required to navigate spaces that normal humans could not even perceive. His latest experiment involved creating matter from pure thought, converting mental energy directly into physical reality through quantum manipulation techniques that no Council species had ever imagined possible. The irony was not lost on any of them. The Council had feared human aggression, human unpredictability, human refusal to follow established patterns. Now, after 20 years of forced evolution, the first sign that something was wrong came from the Outer Rim territories, where merchant ships began disappearing without sending even the briefest distress signals. At first, the losses seemed random and unconnected. Pirates, perhaps, or natural phenomena like gravity wells or stellar flares. But as the months passed, a pattern began to emerge that made even the most skeptical council members uneasy. Councillor Thirl paced in her private chambers on the McCohen homeworld, her many legs clicking against the polished stone floor as she reviewed the latest reports. 15 convoys had vanished in the past 6 months, all in the same general region of space that bordered the old human trade routes. Ships would simply stop transmitting, their quantum signatures fading into nothingness, as if they had never existed at all. "It cannot be coincidence," she hissed to her aide, Councillor Vexian, who stood nearby with his own collection of disturbing data. "The pattern is too precise, too organized. Someone is hunting our ships." "But who?" Vexian replied, his voice carrying the uncertainty that had been growing throughout council space. "Our sensors show no hostile activity in those regions. No unknown ships, no energy signatures, nothing to indicate any kind of threat." Thyrl's breathing apparatus wheezed with agitation. "What about the humans? Could they somehow have developed the capability to—" "Impossible," Vexian interrupted quickly. "Our embargo is absolute. They have been cut off for 23 years. Even if they survived the isolation, they could not have developed faster-than-light travel independently. Our scientists have confirmed that their technology was decades behind ours when we severed contact." But Thyrl was not convinced. Something in her ancient instincts whispered that they were missing something important, something dangerous that was moving in the darkness just beyond their perception. She had been one of the loudest voices calling for human isolation, but now she wondered if that isolation had been as complete as they had assumed. Her concerns were dismissed when she brought them to the full council. Prime Councillor Vexithon's crystalline form shimmered with amusement at the very suggestion that humans might be responsible for the disappearances. "Our long-range sensors monitor the Sol system continuously," he announced to the assembled representatives. "There has been no activity beyond their inner planets for over 2 decades. If the humans still exist at all, they remain trapped exactly where we left them. These ship losses are unfortunate, but they are not the work of a species that lacks even basic interstellar capability." What the Council did not know was that their sensors were detecting exactly what humanity wanted them to detect. Captain Lim Jae-ho commanded a strike group of 6 modified human vessels that moved through space like ghosts, their hulls wrapped in fields that bent light and energy around them so completely that they were invisible to any detection method the aliens had ever developed. "Target acquired," reported Lieutenant Park Da-yoon from the navigation station, her enhanced eyes processing sensor data at speeds that would have overwhelmed a baseline human mind. "Zilari research vessel, minimal escort, carrying quantum processing equipment that matches our priority list." "Remember the protocols," Jae-ho said over the ship's communication system, his voice reaching every member of his crew through direct neural link rather than conventional speakers. "No survivors, no evidence, no trace that we were ever here. This vessel and its crew will simply vanish. Another mysterious disappearance that the Council cannot explain. The attack lasted exactly 8 minutes and 37 seconds. Human ships emerged from stealth at point-blank range, their weapons firing bursts of energy that converted matter directly into quantum static. The Zilari vessel had no time to send a distress signal, no opportunity to record what was happening to them. One moment they existed, the next they were gone, leaving behind only empty space and the growing mystery that haunted Council intelligence analysts. On Council Prime, Intelligence Director Zexamiran studied the latest reports with growing frustration. The disappearances were accelerating, spreading to new regions of space, affecting not just merchant vessels, but military patrols and even diplomatic convoys. The pattern was becoming undeniable, but admitting it would mean acknowledging that the Council's intelligence services had suffered a catastrophic failure. "Sir," his subordinate analyst Kathamiran ventured carefully, "perhaps we should consider the possibility that an unknown species has developed advanced stealth technology. The precision of these attacks suggests organization and capability beyond what we have seen from any known threat." "Unknown species?" Zexamiran snapped, his multifaceted eyes flashing with anger. "Do you have any idea how ridiculous that sounds? We have mapped every star system within 1,000 light-years. We know every civilization capable of interstellar travel. There are no unknown species with this kind of capability." "What about the humans, sir?" Could they have? The humans are contained. Zexmiran's voice rose to a roar that silenced the entire intelligence center. They cannot have developed faster than light travel independently. They cannot have created stealth technology beyond our ability to detect. They cannot be responsible for these attacks because they lack the basic scientific knowledge required for such achievements. But even as he spoke the words, Zexmiran felt a cold uncertainty growing in his mind. The timing was suspicious. The locations matched old human trade route proposals. The precision and organization suggested a level of planning and preparation that spoke of long-term strategic thinking. If not the humans, then who? And if it was the humans, then what had they become during 2 decades of enforced isolation? In a hidden base on Titan, General Han Wu-jin coordinated operations that spanned dozens of star systems. The command center was a marvel of human engineering, its walls lined with quantum computers that processed intelligence data from across the galaxy, while enhanced human operators managed complex infiltration and intelligence-gathering missions that the Council could not even imagine. Agent Mo reports successful penetration of the Zalari Defense Command, reported Colonel Kim Nari, her enhanced mind processing information from multiple sources simultaneously. She has complete access to their fleet deployment schedules, their communication codes, and their strategic planning databases. Excellent, Wu-jin replied, his own enhancements allowing him to absorb and process tactical information at superhuman speeds. What about our operations in Makoan space? Agent Seelan has established a network of contacts throughout their military hierarchy. They trust her completely, believing her to be a member of their own species. She reports that their defensive preparations are minimal, and their response capabilities are severely outdated. The scope of human infiltration was breathtaking. Enhanced agents had spent years, sometimes decades, establishing identities within alien societies, rising through their ranks, gaining access to their most sensitive information. The genetic and cybernetic modifications that allowed humans to perfectly mimic alien physiology and psychology had proven even more effective than anyone had dared hope. But the intelligence gathering was only the beginning. Captain Park Sun-ho commanded a reconnaissance fleet that mapped every military installation, every strategic resource, every potential weakness in the Council's defenses. His ships existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, observing from angles that aliens could not perceive, recording information that would be crucial when humanity finally revealed itself. The Tritonian Collective maintains exactly 47 orbital defense platforms around their homeworld, Sun-ho reported during his weekly intelligence briefing. All of them use the same quantum frequency for coordination. A single disruption pulse would leave them blind and defenseless for approximately 12 minutes. Similar vulnerabilities had been identified throughout Council space. Military bases that relied on predictable patrol schedules, communication networks that used easily intercepted quantum channels, defense grids that could be overwhelmed by coordinated attacks. The aliens had grown complacent during their long period of dominance, never imagining that they might face a threat that operated according to rules they did not understand. Dr. Yoon Tae-hyung worked in a laboratory that existed partially outside normal spacetime, developing weapons and defensive systems that pushed the boundaries of what physics allowed. His latest creation was a gravity manipulation device that could create artificial black holes, weapons that could literally tear holes in reality itself. The quantum disruption torpedoes are ready for field testing, he reported to the Weapons Development Committee. They work by destabilizing the quantum structure of matter at the subatomic level. Any ship hit by one of these weapons will simply cease to exist, converted directly into energy and quantum static. And the defensive systems? Asked General Lee Sujin, the committee's chairwoman. Our shield technology converts incoming energy into usable power. The more they shoot at us, the stronger our defenses become. We have also developed stealth fields that operate in 11 dimensions simultaneously, making our ships effectively invisible to any detection method the Council uses. Meanwhile, Agent Mo Seelan walked the corridors of the Zalari High Command. The annual Council Assembly was supposed to be a routine affair, a gathering of representatives from across the galaxy to discuss trade disputes and territorial agreements while reaffirming the bonds that held their civilization together. The great chamber on Council Prime buzzed with the familiar sounds of diplomatic conversation, translated through devices that had facilitated cooperation between species for thousands of years. Prime Counselor Vexathon called the assembly to order, with his traditional gesture, 6 crystalline arms raised high above his glittering form. The agenda was mundane: shipping lane disputes between the Makoan Empire and the Tritonian Collective, resource allocation for the Outer Rim territories, and a brief discussion of the mysterious ship disappearances that had been troubling the frontier regions for months. Before we address the main agenda, Vexathon announced, his voice carrying easily through the vast chamber, Intelligence Director Zexmiran will provide an update on the investigation into recent shipping losses in sectors 15 through 23. Zexmiran rose from his position among the intelligence advisors, his multiple eyes reflecting the chamber's lights as he accessed his data displays. Honorable Counselors, I am pleased to report that our investigation has identified several natural phenomena that may account for the missing vessels. Solar flare activity in the affected regions has been unusually high, and we have detected several previously unknown gravity wells that could have every screen in the chamber activated simultaneously. The intelligence director's words died in his throat as displays throughout the vast hall flickered to life, showing not the expected data presentations, but something that should have been impossible. Every communication device, every holographic projector, every piece of technology connected to the galactic network suddenly displayed the same image: a human face. President Park Ji-won looked out at them with calm confidence. Her appearance, subtly but noticeably different from the humans the council remembered from 23 years ago. Her features were more refined. Her eyes held a sharpness that seemed to see everything at once, and there was something about her presence that radiated controlled power. "Greetings, Galactic Council," she said, her voice somehow reaching every corner of the chamber despite the chaos that had erupted among the representatives. "You seem to have lost some ships." Counselors leaped from their seats, security systems activated throughout the building, and emergency protocols engaged automatically. But the transmission continued without interruption. Behind President Ji-won, other figures became visible. Admiral Oh Sung-min, General Han Woo-jin, Dr. Song Yoon-ji, and dozens of other humans whose very presence seemed to radiate an aura of enhanced capability that made even the most arrogant council members uncomfortable. 23 years ago, Ji-won continued, completely ignoring the pandemonium her appearance had caused. "You severed all contact with humanity. You expected us to beg for readmission, to prove we had evolved beyond our primitive nature. We chose a different path." The image changed, and suddenly the chamber's display showed something that defied everything the council thought they knew about human capabilities. Thousands of ships emerged from what had appeared to be empty space, their hulls reflecting starlight in patterns that suggested technologies far beyond anything the council had developed. The vessels surrounded every major council world, every military installation, every strategic resource point throughout their territory. "Impossible," whispered Prime Counselor Vexathon, his crystalline form dimming with shock. "Our sensors show no fleet movements, no energy signatures, no—" "Your sensors detect what we allow them to detect." Admiral Oh Sung-min's voice cut through the chamber like a blade. His appearance was even more obviously enhanced than the president's, his movements too precise, his bearing suggesting physical capabilities that transcended normal human limitations. "Your technology is outdated. Your defenses are mapped. Your fleets are surrounded." The tactical displays confirmed the impossible truth. Human vessels had somehow positioned themselves around every council world without detection, their stealth capabilities so advanced that even now, with the ships clearly visible on screen, the council's sensors showed nothing but empty space. "Counselor," Thyrel's breathing apparatus wheezed in panic as she struggled to process what she was seeing. "How long have you been watching us?" General Han Woo-jin stepped forward in the transmission, his enhanced features carrying a predatory smile that sent chills through every alien observer. "Since the day you cut us off. Did you think isolation would weaken us? Instead, it freed us from your limitations, your bureaucracy, your small-minded thinking about what a species could become." The demonstration continued as human operatives revealed themselves throughout council space. Agents who had been living among alien populations for years, decades in some cases, suddenly shed their disguises and showed their true nature. Agent Moseline appeared in the Zalari High Command, her perfectly mimicked alien features shifting and flowing until she stood revealed as an enhanced human whose genetic modifications had allowed her to pass undetected among the crystalline beings. For 15 years, you wanted us to evolve, President Jiwan said, her voice carrying across the galaxy to billions of shocked aliens. We have, but not in the way you expected. You created something you didn't anticipate. Humanity united not by fear, but by purpose. Enhanced not by your technology, but by our own ingenuity. Motivated not by your approval, but by your rejection. Dr. Song Yunji appeared on screen, her obviously modified appearance serving as a living demonstration of how far human enhancement had progressed. While you rested on ancient achievements and older prejudices, we rebuilt ourselves from the ground up, genetically, mentally, physically. We are no longer the species you rejected, counselors. We have become something unprecedented. The scope of human expansion became clear as the transmission continued. Colonies throughout the Sol system, mining operations that extended beyond their home star into interstellar space, research stations that existed in dimensions the Council had never imagined exploring. Humanity had not just survived their isolation. They had used it to transcend every limitation the aliens thought defined intelligent species. We developed faster-than-light travel that operates outside the quantum frameworks you understand, explained Dr. Yoon Tae-hyung, speaking from a laboratory that clearly existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. We created enhancement technologies that push biological evolution beyond its natural boundaries. We learned to exist in parallel realities, to manipulate matter at the quantum level, to convert thought directly into physical reality. Captain Lim Jae-ho appeared next, standing on the bridge of his vessel as it hung invisible in the space above, Council Prime itself. Your missing ships were not destroyed, counselors, they were taken, their crews studied, their technologies analyzed, their capabilities measured against our own. We found you wanting. The chamber had fallen into stunned silence as the implications of what they were witnessing sank in. The species they had rejected as too primitive to join their civilization had not only survived complete isolation, but had evolved into something that made their original fears seem pathetically inadequate. You were right to fear our potential, President Jiwan continued, her words striking each council member like physical blows. You simply failed to understand what that potential actually meant. You saw our conflicts and assumed we were violent. You saw our diversity and assumed we were weak. You saw our independence and assumed we were incapable of cooperation. Agent Park Sun-ho spoke from deep within Makoan territory, where he had spent 12 years building a cover identity so perfect that he had been promoted to positions of significant authority within their military hierarchy. We are violent when violence serves our purposes. We are diverse because diversity makes us stronger. We are independent because independence allows us to adapt and evolve in ways that rigid hierarchies cannot match. The transmission showed the true scope of human infiltration throughout Council space, enhanced agents in positions of authority within every major government, military organization, and research institution. Humans who had been watching, learning, and preparing for this moment while the aliens remained completely oblivious to their presence. We return now not as supplicants seeking your approval, President Jiwan concluded, her image filling every screen throughout the galaxy, but as your equals, perhaps something more than your equals. The question facing you now is simple. Will you treat us as such? Or shall we demonstrate why your hubris was so catastrophically misguided? The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in absolute silence. Outside, human ships waited in the void, their weapons powered, but not yet targeted, their intentions clear but not yet acted upon. The greatest civilization in galactic history had just discovered that they were no longer alone at the top of the evolutionary ladder. In the stunned quiet that followed, Counselor Thyrell managed to speak the question that every representative was thinking. "What do you want?" The answer came not from the screens, but from the enhanced human who had been sitting among them throughout the entire assembly, disguised as a minor diplomatic aide. Agent Kim Nari rose from her position. The siege of Council Space lasted exactly 72 hours. Though it was not a siege in any traditional sense, human forces made no aggressive moves, launched no attacks, issued no ultimatums. They simply existed, surrounding every major world and installation with a patient presence that spoke more eloquently than any threat could have. The message was clear. Humanity had the power to reshape galactic civilization, and they were waiting to see if the Council would choose cooperation or destruction. In the emergency session convened in the deepest bunkers beneath Council Prime, the representatives of 47 species faced a reality that none of them had been prepared for. The species they had rejected as too primitive to join their civilization now possessed capabilities that made the Council's combined military might look like ancient weapons from a forgotten age. Admiral Oh Sungmin appeared before them as a hologram, his enhanced features radiating the kind of controlled power that made even the most arrogant Council members uncomfortable. Behind him, displays showed the scope of human military capability. Thousands of vessels that could apparently exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, weapons that manipulated gravity and quantum forces, defensive systems that converted incoming energy into raw power. "Your fleets have been disabled, not destroyed," he announced, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had spent decades preparing for this moment. "Your planetary defense grids are under our control, but your populations remain unharmed. Your communication networks route through our systems, but we are monitoring only official government channels. This is not conquest, counselors. This is correction." Prime Counselor Vexathon's crystalline form had lost much of its former brilliance, his light dimmed by the magnitude of his species' miscalculation. "What are your terms?" he asked, the words feeling like poison in his translator circuits. President Park Ji-won materialized beside Admiral Oh, her presence somehow managing to be both reassuring and terrifying at the same time. "Our terms are simple. Recognition of humanity as a full member of the Council with senior status, superseding the 3 longest-serving member races, permanent stationing of human military forces throughout Council space for mutual defense purposes, immediate lifting of all trade restrictions with preferential trading status for human merchants and manufacturers, and the creation of a new position, arbiter of human affairs, with veto power over any Council decision that affects human interests." The demands hit the assembled aliens like physical blows. Not only were the humans demanding readmission to the Council they had once been rejected from, they were demanding senior status and permanent military presence throughout the galaxy. Counselor Thyril could barely contain her outrage, her breathing apparatus hissing with each word. "You are demanding that we submit to your authority, that we accept your dominance over civilizations that have existed for millennia, before your species even developed written language." General Han Woo-jin's image appeared in the chamber, his enhanced features carrying a smile that held no warmth whatsoever. "You demanded that we submit to your judgment 23 years ago. The difference is that we are offering you a choice in the matter. You can accept these terms and maintain your positions within a restructured galactic order, or you can reject them and discover what happens when humanity stops being diplomatic about our requirements." To emphasize the point, the displays around the chamber showed human forces throughout Council space, not just the obvious military vessels, but the infiltration networks that had been operating for decades. Enhanced agents revealed themselves in positions of authority throughout alien governments, their genetic modifications allowing them to shed their disguises and stand revealed as humans who had been manipulating Council politics for years. Dr. Song Yoonji appeared on the screens, her obviously enhanced appearance serving as a reminder of how far human evolution had progressed. "Our development continues, counselors. Each year we become more capable, more advanced, more unified in our purposes. You can be part of that progress, or you can be bypassed by it. The choice is yours, but the decision must be made now." The curse vote, when it finally came, was unanimous in favor of accepting human terms. But the council members were not voting out of choice. They were voting because the alternative was the complete dissolution of their civilization as they knew it. Humanity had demonstrated that they could operate entirely outside the galactic order if necessary, and they clearly possessed the power to impose their will by force if diplomacy failed. But the humans were not finished with their revelations. Fleet Admiral Lee Minseo materialized in the chamber to deliver what would prove to be the most shocking disclosure of all. "You isolated us because you believed we needed you more than you needed us," she said, her voice carrying across the galaxy to billions of stunned aliens. "You were wrong on both counts. While you have stagnated over the past 2 decades, resting on ancient technologies and older prejudices, we have unlocked secrets that you deemed too dangerous to pursue. The holographic displays changed to show human research facilities that existed in parallel dimensions, mining operations in alternate realities, colonies in universes where the fundamental laws of physics operated according to different principles. Humanity had not just mastered interstellar travel, they had learned to navigate between different versions of reality itself. We do not merely travel faster than light," Admiral Lee continued, her words reshaping everything the Council thought. They understood about the limitations of space and time. "We travel outside the jurisdiction of light entirely. We exist in multiple realities simultaneously, harvesting resources from dimensions you cannot perceive, conducting research in universes where the basic constants of reality can be manipulated like tools." Director Kim Dong-hyun appeared next, his enhanced form clearly beyond baseline human limitations in ways that defied easy categorization. "We do not simply enhance our biology to exceed natural limitations. We transcend biological constraints entirely, converting consciousness into energy patterns that can exist independently of physical form, transferring awareness between bodies, creating collective intelligences that operate on scales your species cannot imagine." The implications were staggering. Humanity had not just survived their isolation or even thrived despite it. They had used their exile to evolve beyond the boundaries of what the Council considered possible for any species, organic or artificial. Captain Park Sun-ho spoke from a research station that existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously, his words carrying the weight of revelations that would reshape galactic civilization. "We have learned to create matter from pure thought, to convert mental energy directly into physical reality through quantum manipulation techniques that your finest scientists would consider indistinguishable from magic. We have unlocked the secrets of consciousness itself, learning to transfer awareness between realities to exist as pure information patterns that can inhabit any suitable substrate." Agent Mo Seelan, revealed now in her true form after years of perfectly mimicking Solari physiology, delivered perhaps the most important message of all. "The Council rejected us because you feared our potential. You were absolutely right to fear it, but completely wrong about what that potential actually represented. You saw the beginning stages of human development and assumed you understood our limitations. You could not have been more mistaken." The ceremony that formalized humanity's readmission to the Council was conducted in absolute silence, each alien representative signing the documents with the knowledge that they were not just accepting a new member, but acknowledging the rise of a species that had transcended every assumption they held about evolution, technology, and the limits of what intelligent life could achieve. President Park Ji-won signed the accords with a simple stylus, but the gesture carried the weight of 23 years of forced evolution that had transformed humanity from a rejected applicant into the dominant force in galactic civilization. As she finished her signature, she looked up at the assembled representatives and spoke words that would be remembered until the heat death of the universe. "You taught us that silence could be a prison," she said, her voice carrying to every world in council space. "We learned to make it a forge instead. You intended to humble us through isolation. Instead, you gave us the greatest gift any species could receive: the freedom to become what we were always meant to be, without limitation or external constraint." The chamber remained silent as the implications settled over them like a blanket of inevitability. The Council had sought to force human evolution through rejection and isolation, never imagining that their abandoned applicants would use that abandonment to evolve beyond every boundary the aliens thought defined intelligent life. "We do not," Seek dominance over your species, President G1 continued, though her words carried the unmistakable undertone of power that came from possessing capabilities beyond alien comprehension. We seek partnership, but partnership between equals. You will find us generous allies and valuable trading partners, but you will also find that we have learned to thrive independently of your approval or disapproval. We are what we choose to be, not what others expect us to become.